My blood ran cold. I fumbled with the recorder, my hands shaking as I pressed the play button. Brenda's saccharine voice filled the small device, recounting our most private conversations, twisting my words, painting me as irrational and cruel. I heard her phone camera click, followed by her hushed whispers, fabricating stories about my supposed neglect of Chloe, about my unpleasant disposition. It was a meticulously crafted narrative of my downfall, recorded for whom? For future ammunition? To gaslight Mark more effectively? I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. This wasn't just overstepping, this was a calculated invasion, a deliberate act of sabotage. I clutched the recorder, the plastic digging into my palm. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. I waited until morning, until Brenda was downstairs, humming cheerfully as she helped herself to our coffee. Mark was still in bed, and I knew this was my chance to salvage something. I went into our bedroom, the recorder still in my pocket, and woke him gently. He stirred, groggy, and I held out the device. "Mark, you need to hear this," I said, my voice tight with a mixture of fear and resolve. He took it, a confused frown on his face. As he listened, his expression shifted from bemusement to disbelief, then to a dawning horror. He rewound sections, his breath catching in his throat. The passive facade he'd maintained for weeks crumbled, replaced by a stark realization. He looked at me, his eyes wide and pained. "Sarah, I had no idea." Just then, Chloe's small voice called out from the hallway. "Mommy? Daddy?" She appeared in the doorway, her eyes puffy and red, clutching a tattered stuffed bear. Brenda's presence had been a slow, insidious poison to our daughter, and now, it seemed, Mark was finally seeing the full, devastating effect. "Chloe, honey, what's wrong?" I asked, my heart aching. She hesitated, then burst into tears. "Grandma Brenda, she keeps saying I'm a bad girl. She says you don't love me enough because you're always busy. She tells me I'm too loud and too messy, and that I'm going to make everyone mad." She sobbed, burying her face in her bear. "She makes me feel so small." Mark sank onto the edge of the bed, his face pale. He pulled Chloe into his arms, murmuring reassurances, but his gaze was fixed on me, a silent apology and a newfound understanding passing between us. The recorder, Chloe's tears, it was all too much for him to ignore any longer. His mother wasn't just eccentric, she was actively harming our family. That afternoon, Mark and I sat down with Brenda. The air in the living room crackled with tension. We were a united front, our voices calm but firm. "Mom," Mark began, his hand covering mine, "this has gone on long enough. Your visit needs to end. You need to go home." Brenda blinked, her practiced smile faltering for a second before snapping back into place, even wider this time, more unsettling. "Go home? But where would I go, dear? I have nowhere else to stay. And Sarah was so happy to have my help. Weren't you, Sarah?" She turned her gaze to me, a glint in her eye that promised trouble. "Brenda, we've made arrangements," I said, my voice steady. "Your flight is booked for Friday. We'll drive you to the airport." Her smile vanished completely. Her face hardened, her eyes narrowing. "You're kicking me out? After I've sacrificed everything to be here for you? You're ungrateful. Both of you." She stood up, her voice rising. "You'll regret this, Sarah. You'll see. You'll be sorry when you're all alone and have no one to help you." The thinly veiled threats hung in the air, laced with a palpable malice. She continued to rant, spewing accusations, tears streaming down her face, but this time, Mark didn't waver. He simply held my hand tighter. When Brenda refused to pack, making a show of collapsing onto the sofa and moaning about her ailments, Mark calmly called a locksmith. The man arrived within the hour, a burly, no-nonsense individual who didn't bat an eye at the unfolding drama. As the locksmith worked on changing the locks, Brenda finally seemed to grasp the finality of the situation. With a dramatic huff and a parting glare that promised retribution, she snatched her bags and stormed out the front door, slamming it shut behind her. We watched from the window as her car, packed with her belongings, pulled away. The quiet that descended was deafening. We stood there for a long moment, the silence a balm to our frayed nerves. The relief was immense, but the lingering unease remained. As Brenda's car finally pulled away, leaving a cloud of dust in our driveway, I noticed something new. A small, hand-knitted doll sitting on my doorstep, its button eyes seeming to stare right through me, a chilling reminder that some invasions leave scars long after the intruder is gone. Later that evening, with Chloe finally asleep and the house feeling like our own again, Mark and I sat on the couch, the recorder and the doll between us. "We'll get through this," he said, pulling me close. "We're stronger than she is." We talked for hours, about boundaries, about trust, about how we would ensure this never happened again. We agreed on clear rules, on open communication, and on the importance of always putting our family first. The 6 months had been a nightmare, a violation of our home and our peace, but it had also been a crucible. We had faced the worst and emerged, battered but unbroken, ready to rebuild and to fiercely protect the sanctuary we called home.